welcome to the Adama Clay Studios of Bethel Horizons. I'm Jennifer Malley, the director, and we're continuing our small project demo videos for you. In this next video, I'm going to present how to block print a fabric. So I have an example of a dress that I've made out of two men's t-shirts and how I've block printed a sun on it. And here's also an example of a block print ink on a flower towel, flour sack towel. And this is a little bit of a teaser for a weekend workshop that we're offering in the fall at Adama, which is all about printing on fabrics. So this video is going to be a bit of a truncated demonstration of what we're going to go over during that workshop. And block printing on fabric, I have broken it down into two processes. The first one is making the actual block or the design that you want printed on the fabric, and the second part of it is how to actually get the print onto the fabric. And what I'm going to do today is explain that you should use a soft rubber block printing material. You can buy this through Amazon or through Speedball Company, and it's quite a common material used for block printing. So it's soft like rubber. And these carving tools are also made by Speedball. And I will offer a set of resources on the website as well. So if you don't remember, you can print it off of our website. Anyway, these are tools with different cutting heads on them that allow you to carve this soft material. Before you can carve though, you have to have a design. And there's a multiple of different ways you can do it. You can find a design off of the internet and you can print it through your printer, and then as long as it's the size that fits onto this material, you can use a carbon paper and you can trace it. What I prefer to do is come up with my own design, and that involves getting a piece of tracing paper, and I put the linoleum on top of the tracing paper, and I trace around it with a pencil, and then I cut out the size of a piece of tracing paper to fit over this block. And this is the tracing paper that I started with. And what I did is I drew the design that I wanted. So I drew out a quick cup of warm coffee, and I thought that would be a potentially nice design to have on a tea towel. If you use a soft pencil to do your original design on, then all you need to do is face the pencil side, the drawing side of the tracing paper down onto the block that you're wanting to carve. And if you rub on it with your fingers, the pencil wears off and gets directly put onto the surface of the material. So it's really easy. You don't need carbon paper or anything. And what I'm going to do is just show you how to use the carving tools real quickly, but we're going to then jump ahead, and I won't finish it on this video. You get to come to the workshop for that. So if I select a carving tool to do the outside, let's say I select the largest one, and I will start in the corner, and I would like to bring the back, I would like to take the background away and leave the coffee cup raised. So that's what I'm going to be putting the ink on. So one of the things you do is you always carve away from you, and I like to make the cutting tool more stable by using two hands. So I support the cutting tool like this, and you want it on an angle that's maybe a 30-degree angle against the surface. If you go higher than that, you'll dig in really, really deep. If you go on a lesser of an angle, you can skim right off the top, and it actually can be dangerous. So we're just going to start to show you how it's so easy to take strips of this soft rubber material right off and you can go along the outline real quickly of your design. And I'll just do a couple of lines, and then we're gonna jump ahead here and get on to the actual printing of the fabric. So as you can see, I've just started to cut around the outline of my coffee mug. Now, I do have 3 actual tools here, but really you only need 1, because if you buy the Speedball tool, it comes with these different heads to screw into the top of this tool, and they just get held in the inside of the handle. I ended up with 3 just so that I don't have to keep changing the heads while I'm carving. So I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to jump to a couple of examples of I had finished carving these. These are examples of ones that are ready to print. So this is a set of birch trees, and this here is a bird on a branch, and that's what I printed on this tea towel. And this is a sun, and that's the one that I did print on this dress. And today I am going to print this sun just like on my dress, but I'm going to show it how to print it on a tea towel. But before we start, let me talk a little bit about fabrics. So you can print on a multitude of different fabrics. The tighter the weave, the better the ink adheres to it. If you have a very open weave, the ink tends to spread out and be not as solid looking. So the denser the fabric, the better. If it's a new fabric, I would highly suggest washing it first. Sometimes new garments or new fabrics have kind of a sizing on it, and you need to wash that away. And then don't use fabric softener or dryer sheets either. You really want to expose really clean fibers so that the ink adheres to it. So when I purchased these flour sack towels, I did put them through the washer and the dryer. So it took that sizing off of the top of the fabric. So the ink that I'm going to use is, again, it sounds like I'm doing an ad for Speedball, but really this company does have everything you need to get this project done. So these are black printing ink for fabric, specifically for fabric. If you use their normal ink, black print ink, it will not stay fast on the material. So I purchased the fabric ink in red and in blue. I did get these just off of Amazon, and they are oil-based, but they say that they're water oil-based. So that means that I can wash up all of my, my grayers and everything just with soap and water. So when we print these and it's wet on the fabric, we need to allow that fabric, the ink on the fabric, to dry for 24 hours. And then you can wear it or use it after 24 hours, but it really shouldn't go through the washing machine with the soap and the water and everything they recommend between 4 and 7 days. So I think it just becomes more fast throughout that week. What I recommend is, once your black print is finished, I would recommend, before you print it on your fabric, to do a test on a piece of paper to just make sure that it's what you like. I also think that the second printing comes out better than the first. So if I know that I like this print, but I'm still going to do my first one on a piece of paper because the second print looks better every time, and I want the better print to be on the fabric. So I'm going to take the red ink, and I am going to spread a line of it out. Now, I'm just using a piece of plexiglass. You can use glass, which has some safety issues with it, but anything that's really a smooth surface. So I prefer plexiglass. there was an old refrigerator that needed to be thrown away, and I ended up taking some of the glass shelves out of it, and I used those for larger printing projects. It doesn't work well if you have a surface that has any texture on it, because you can't get a nice even film of the ink on your brayer. So again, this is called a brayer, and this is a really inexpensive one, and they are made for block printing. And again, you can just buy these at an art store, Dick Blick, Amazon, and they're not very expensive. So I'm going to run a line of this ink across this plexiglass like this. You start out with about this much. And if anybody's done other block printing, they'll know that inks, water-based inks, they do dry out. They don't dry out, they dry out faster than if you have an oil-based. This dries out especially fast. I kind of found that not only does the fabric ink dry out faster, but it also tends to stain a little bit stains your hands and your materials a bit more than the normal ink, which isn't a problem. It does come off, but I just want to warn you of that. So how you know that you've got your ink spread out nicely, you try to get it into a square and you roll it in both directions so it covers your brayer evenly. When the ink starts to do little peaks, or when you get kind of a sticky sound, you know that you have put the ink on correctly, and you can kind of take a look at your brayer and it's just nice and even all the way around. So I'm going to then apply it to my design here, and I'm going to go in both directions. So I'm going to go in this direction, and I'm going to turn the block and ink it in the other direction. I might put another layer of ink on. So looking at your print here, your block print, you can see that there are also peaks on here. So you know you've got a nice even covering on the rubber block. And I'm going to tip this over like this. I'm going to lay it down. I'm just using a piece of white paper. And normally when you make a block print, it's the opposite way. You have your inked print this way, and you stick the paper on top and you burnish it. But I am going to do it in this direction because this is the direction that we print fabric. This is the method we use for printing fabric, and therefore it would give me a clearer idea of what it would look like when I burnish the back of the rubber block instead of the paper. So I'm going to lift this up, and there's my first print. So with that said, we're going to move on to printing the tea towel here. Now, there's probably many methods to do this. The method that I came up with was using a piece of foam core, and whether you're using a t-shirt, you can slip this inside the t-shirt. If in this case with a tea towel, this is a good way of making it work. So you might want to put some pins or some light pencil marks to know exactly where you want to place your print. In this case, for demo purposes, I'm just going to eyeball it. So I'm going to, aim for the center here, and I'm going to wrap the kind of like hospital, sheets, doing those kind of corners. I'm going to clamp them on like this, one here. I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to pull it tight and fold the corner down. Put another clamp on it. Okay, now I know that this is my front, so I'm going to turn it like this, so I know that I would like my print to go right here. Now it's not terribly taut, but it does give you a working surface. And the fact that it's a little spongy, I think is okay as well, because it helps you press your design in. So I'm going to set that here, and I'm going to re-ink my rubber block. So I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to add a little bit of ink to this to make sure we have enough. Re-ink our okay, so there's our inked block, and I'm going to tip it upside down. And I'm not going to be real careful here just because of demo purposes, but if you knew exactly where you'd want it, you'd want to match it up with either marks or where you've pinned. You're going to put it down on the fabric. You can't, once it's down, you can't adjust it or move it. You're committed. And what I do is, and you don't want to slide it because you'll slide the design. I go through with my fingers and I give it a back and forth, like kind of like you're mowing the lawn. I give it an even pressure so that I know every part of the design or the ink has hit the fabric. Now these tea towels have an open weave on them, so we're not going to get a real tight design just because the threads are kind of far apart. But it does make for fun towels to have in your kitchen. So I think we're done, and I'm going to just peel this off. There we are. And here's our design on our tea towel. So what I'll do is I will either let this sit on here, or I'll take it off and lay it someplace that the ink would be safe. I'm going to let it sit for 24 hours. And like I said, a week later I can put it through the washing machine. So that is how we do permanent permanent block print inking on fabric. And again, we're going to have a workshop on this in the fall, and we're going to go into a lot of other embellishments for fabric, like adding other colors and layering things, and it is going to be very interesting. I will post the resources that I used today on the Adama website, which is adamaartstudio.org. I hope you've enjoyed this demo, and please join us again for our next demo. Thank you.